that's what really got me started, because that was actually my very first car that I purchased, was a turbocharged Starlet. Getting this one in particular is a very funny story. I noticed it a couple times on the road. Well, a couple years after I sold my last one, I said I will be getting another one. Priorities changed at the time that, so I sold my previous one, and last year I got back in the market for looking for one, and I'd seen this one on the road a couple times. I decided, you know, if I'm gonna get one, it has to be a really nice one, really fresh one, no accident history, that sort of thing. So this was the one I was kind of drawn to. I started hunting it down, had no clue who owned it. I would just get glimpses of it every now and then. I spoke to this young lady who I worked with at the time. I found out that this car was owned by somebody in the fire service, and she happened to be an EMT, so I asked her if she knew the person. And so funny, it turned out the guy who owned the car was her boyfriend. She called him in the morning and said, you know, somebody's interested in buying your car. The guy got really upset. He's like, my car is not for sale, I'm not selling my car, that sort of thing. I said to her, let me just speak to him. He said, no, I don't want to speak to anybody, my car is not for sale. So we left it at that. About a month later, I kind of gave up at that point in time, but a month later I started back on the hunt again for a Starlet. I was going to buy the GT Advance at the time, and the night before I said, you know what, let me just try one more time to speak to this guy. So I called the different fire stations, that sort of thing, trying to hunt down the guy with the little black car, because I had no idea what his name was. After jumping around a little bit, I narrowed it down to this guy who was not at work, so I had to wait another 4 days for him to get to work to actually speak to him. When I finally got to speak to him, the evening I called him, he's like, wow, that's so funny, I literally just put a for sale sign on the car. I was down in view for the next day, and I bought it 2 days later. I like small cars. I do. I find they're a lot easier to work on. You can pretty much work on them anywhere. You don't need like a garage, you don't need a lift, that sort of thing. You can just jack it up, get underneath it, do your work. I find the bigger vehicles, they require a lot more effort to actually do something on them. So with the smaller vehicles, it's a lot easier, because I do, like I said, I do everything myself. So it's usually a one-man show. So I find the smaller vehicles are a lot easier to work on. I can just do it in my spare time, do it in a hurry, and get it over with. So that's basically why I like the smaller ones. But I like cars generally, you know. I like fast cars, I like sports cars. My preference, because I do it myself, is smaller vehicles.